everybody. Hi, all our Transgender followers again. We are here again to be with you and to support you. So today we've got a very interesting theme. Until now, we always looked at the view from the transgender people, and tonight we're going to try to talk about something called the parents, the view and the issues the parents go through, and our advice to them. So I'll give Bonnie, because Bonnie has got some very interesting story behind that.
I received a phone call day before yesterday in the evening, and a friend of mine that I knew, we'll call him Howard, he was frantic because his child is coming out to him as trans. Now, it would be male to female. The questions that he asked is what I'm going to try to share with you. As number one was fear. Number two was his child's well-being. Number three, the fear if the child went on hormones, what would that do? Would it just like ruin that person for life? They could never be the same because they went on hormones. And then there was a few other things in between. And what I want us tonight to discuss is kind of those subjects. Number one, my opinion. If your child, you're fortunate enough that they come out to talk to you, you got to embrace that. It's like, I'm not quoting statistics, but it's really, and I don't even like to bring this up, but there's a lot of children commit suicide. A lot of people transgender commit suicide. And it's like 60% less chance of them committing suicide, or maybe 70%, I'm not sure, if their parent accepts them. So we have to take and put the child as an entity and leave all the emotion out of it. And what I'm saying is that if you're emotionally involved, you cannot make decisions that are logical or maybe with the best intent, but not have the right outcome. But if you're able to separate and make decisions from logic, number one, embrace your child. You might not agree with a lot of stuff, but gosh, think about if you're having a hard time, what's going on in your kid's head? What's going on in your kid's life? What's going on in that brain that tilt? And so it's not you. Once again, step back and let go of emotion and look at the situation. You have a child that's hurting. You have a child, you want them to be here. You don't want to lose them. And you want to do what's best for your child, to help your child to grow. And with that being said, I think we can all interact here a little bit. But the point I'm just trying to say is it's critical in the beginning, the acceptance. It's critical that you support your child. It's critical. You might not agree with everything, but what I'm going to say to you is there's the internet, there's groups, there's so many places that you can learn and talk to other parents that have gone through the same thing. And a lot of the fears that you have in your head are really just in your head. They're kind of irrelevant. In today's times, people don't care. What I'm trying to say is you might care because you're worried about, is somebody going to beat my child up or hurt my child or do something to my child? And I got to, yes, you're a parent. You should be a parent. And if your kid wants to go dressed up crazy and go out and do crazy stuff as a parent, you shouldn't allow that. But if your child does it in a respectful way, and you got to understand, you got to have some leeway because they're like a, 12, 13-year-old just trying to find themselves. So there's going to be some give and take. But with all that being said, it's all about how does your child feel? Not you, because you don't matter. I mean, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. You do matter, but you want to keep your child here. You don't want to see your kid. And let me tell you something. You go talk to groups, you talk about how many people have childs that have killed themselves. I'm not just trying to put fear in somebody's head. This is a reality. And that's what I'm trying to stress. It's a reality. Your kid's feeling is the most important. And everybody else chime in a little more.
Yeah, I mean, we get quite a lot of people asking, children. Sometimes it's other family members. I've got one request it was a woman in South Africa, and her father was in New Zealand, and she had big issues with that. What I always recommend, and it doesn't make any difference how old your child or your family member is, try to get into a family group. There are many people like you, and you can exchange ideas. And the second thing, which I think is very important, if it is your child, try to get a counselor, someone to follow the person and try to see if it is really a transgender kid. And believe me, right now, there is apparently an incredible explosion with the new generation of transgender, which are defining themselves either as gender conforming or gender non-conforming. The number of people going into this direction is very high. And it has to be taken care of. It's not something which, it's not a phase.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, I would just want to say that I think the love is where it's at. I mean, as parents, I'm sure, I'm not a parent, but I know from my parents, as difficult as it was for them to accept it, the love was always there. And I remember my mom not understanding it. It was like the pink elephant in the room. She didn't agree with it per se. She was confused. Her thing was like, how are you going to make it in this world like that? That was her thing from the perspective of a mother worried about her child, and, that people can be so cruel to your type. And now, mind you, this was another generation, so it was a little different than maybe today, where things are more open when it comes to trans. But just like with your friend, Bonnie, look, he's freaking out, and it's 2021. So I think when it hits home, it's a whole different story. And the parents, from the parents' perspective, I'm sure their thing is, oh my God, is my child going to be okay in this world like that? And so, my response to my mom was, I get it. I know you're worried about me, but what am I supposed to do? This is who I am. This is my authentic self. Do I just go hide under a rock, or do I live my life? Do I carry on and live my life? So it took time. It took time, her and my dad. It took a lot of time. And when I say time, I'm talking like years.
My parents never accepted me.
Never accept you. Yeah. I mean, a lot of trans people deal with that, and so, but what I was going to say, though, is I never felt like my mom turned her back on me. Even in the days when she wasn't accepting, she didn't understand it, she didn't agree with it. Like the love, that constant love of a child and a parent was there. And I think that's the core thing that, you say to yourself, okay, this is my child and I love them, right? And then from there, you can look into resources. There's so many resources now for trans people and their family. So check into your LGBT community center. There should be programs available counseling, all sorts of resources. You're not alone. You're not alone.
Absolutely. Jeannie, you want to say something?
Sure. Years ago, 30, 40 years ago, when I was growing up, there was no vocabulary. The concept of being trans wasn't even part of the English language. And most of the folks were old school. There wasn't any LGBT community whatsoever, or if it was underground. And there was no pride parade. There was no rainbow color. There was no, it was a closet community. And look how far we've come in that short amount of time. Even in my own 5 or 6 year evolution in my own transition, I've witnessed a change in our society. And for the younger kids growing up now, I think, I think for a parent, they think that if their kid's trans, it's a defect or there's something wrong with my kid. So that creates like a stigma kind of attitude. And then that's the approach that the parent takes. And nothing could be further from the truth. I think being born a trans person in my own life, I think it's a gift. I think it's
I'll second that.
It's a gift. It's I don't know how to explain it, but the way my brain works, the way I see things, the way I interpret things, it's so unique. It's unique. I see things from the viewpoint of masculine and feminine, and I can see things from the the viewpoint of a girl, and then that adds a whole nother perspective, a whole nother way of thinking, a whole nother way of behavior, and then that also alters and modifies the contribution that I make to the society by and large. So yeah, if you grow up and you think that, everyone thinks that like a handicap is some sort of burden or, it's a defect or something. And the greatest example of all, Stephen Hawking, the dude was paralyzed to the extent that he had to talk by blinking his eyeballs, and probably the smartest physicist on the planet. And so for a young person, I know that I have a daughter. She's 32 years old. She's a professor of psychology in Gwinnett University outside Atlanta. And so I know that when my wife and I were raising our kid, I elevated my child. Everything was positive affirmations. You can do this. You can do that. You're strong. You're smart. You're athletic. You're a good problem solver. And when there were situations that needed corrections, I didn't say, don't do this, don't do that. I'm like, let's think about what we're doing. And there's always a better way to do something. So that's the approach. If a parent discovers that their child is trans, then take a positive approach, get some counseling. And in today's world, being trans or underneath the whole LGBT umbrella, it's like it's no big deal. It's not a stigma. It's everyone. I can tell you right now, everyone on this planet knows somebody or has a relative that's in the LGBT community. So the accepting, and I think Raji mentioned it's love. All kids need are 2 things: our time and love.
Yeah.
Ella.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian.
Hey, everybody. Well, I've got a little bit I'd like to share. but like kind of like what Bonnie was saying earlier, how, like imagine what, you're going through all these things as a parent. Imagine what your kid's going through. That like, but all these problems that we talk about that parents are having, like, they don't even know what transgender is, or, like, what is this? And they don't understand, or they feel alone. They're maybe even embarrassed. Why is my kid like this? How come I can't just be normal, like everybody else? All those things are situations that, when I was thinking about this topic, those problems are kind of like boils down to like what was going on with my family. And, my mom and dad were kind of going through that, questioning, like, what's going on? I don't understand. I'm alone. I'm embarrassed. I felt those things way before I ever even told my mom and dad. And I had to wrestle with all of those things. What is this? How come I'm not normal? How come, like, what's going on? I would pray to God, like, at first it was, please, make me a boy. But then as time went on, it's like, please just make me normal. Please just, make my brain match whatever the hell I was given, so I can just feel right. And I kind of was willing to submit to that idea that I just need to be like society. And it's like, it doesn't go away. This thing inside just doesn't go away. So, to resolve that, in my experience, I educated myself, and then I figured out that problem of what the hell is this? I figured out that it's not a deformity. I figured out that it's actually normal. I mean, it just took a little bit of courage and going on the internet to find a couple YouTube videos to educate myself.
Or therapy, going to a counselor that is familiar with transgender issues, and let your child as well as yourself be counseled. And sometimes it can be counseled together as well as apart. And the more effort you put into something, the more you will get back out of it.
Correct.
I continue.
And then, like, I started it with baby steps because I wasn't so comfortable to go out of my door. The first day I really was like, you know what, you're right. You gotta stop denying yourself. I gotta embrace this shit and just figure out what this really is, and go down this rabbit hole and just go on a ride and just see where it takes me. So I decided to do it and commit to it. And when I did that, I went on the internet, I found out, these things. And then I got in touch with some people that were a part of a group called PFLAG. And when I went there, it, took me to another level, because now I don't feel alone. Now I have people that are sharing stories, and I was able to gain a support system. And that really took it to another level. And then I also found a bunch of resources to help me. And it just, helped me get perspective in my parents' perspective. It helped, me learn more about myself. I would hear from other parents that were involved with the group, some things they're struggling with, some things that they're excelling with, some things that, they're trying to, make into their lifestyle, like the pronouns, get wrapping their head around maybe their kid getting bottom surgeries, which is like, the sex change surgery, and maybe they have to come to peace with not having biological grandchildren. So that's a heavy hitter too, that my mom and dad, were kind of distraught about. At the time, I didn't understand it. And anybody that's going through this is trans, I hope that you could watch this and hopefully, be more patient and understanding with your mom and dad, or your guardian, or whoever's your support system, if they are struggling, so that, you get more bees with honey than vinegar. And, with love, that's going to be the solvent to everything, and with parents, I think just like how Bonnie said, the more you put into it, the more you're going to get. So just take baby steps and then try to go out there and find somebody, some group, and that support group will answer those questions for you. The more, it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's like, you just started calculus today, you're not going to learn all the answers by tonight. You know, you're not going to know everything by tonight. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take continual, consistent effort to keep.
There's no right, there's no wrong. What works for one person might not work for another person. Everybody's got to figure out their own individual identity. And when they have support from their parents, they can figure that out. And I know that a lot of parents, their dream is that they'll support their kid and it's a phase they're going to grow out of, and then they're going to go back to their old normal self. It could happen, but it doesn't necessarily happen that often. And a lot of times, if they're forced that way, then down the road, they either have alcohol or drug problems, or they do something that sabotages themselves, whatever it might be. So that's not the answer, to push your child to be normal. What is normal? I can tell you this, I'm transgender, and I thank the Lord every single day, because if it not, I would have just been a closed-minded redneck and life would have passed me by. So, I mean, you got to find the positive and stuff. It can't always be about doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say, don't beat up on yourself, because one thing that a lot of parents do is they say, where did I go wrong? You know, we're born like this. There's nothing that you did that made us transgender. And so I think a lot of people need to, like parents, need to think like, okay, like don't even go in that direction or down that road, because that's like, I believe one of the things my mom asked herself, like, oh my God, what did I do? Where did I go wrong with this? So, yeah. What did you say?
The guilt issue.
Oh, the guilt. Yeah, the guilt. Yeah.
Christian, you just want to
Christian,
something, right?
Say something.
Oh, I just wanted to add to, you know, this is, you know, when Bonnie was saying, like, you know, the kids could, you know, by not being supported, they can go down a path that nobody wants to be involved with. And, you know, they confided in you, you know, they trust you. They, you know, I mean, if you don't understand what's going on, imagine, you know, it's okay if you don't understand, but imagine how they feel. They don't totally grasp it either. You know, it takes, it's a learning process for everybody involved.
Absolutely. And I think,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think you told something which is very, very important, Christian. When you are a transgender and you're telling your parents about yourself, never forget, you have a head start. They are just coming into the thing. So it's always a very big, they are defaced. They don't know what to do with it. And most of them have never heard about it. So they still have to learn the process that you already have been gone through. So this is as well an advice. So be a little bit patient in the beginning towards your parents. I mean, many things which are very, very critical for transgender people. One is, for example, the pronouns. Pronouns are important. And I can bet you that your parents will not follow the pronouns in the beginning. It'll take them some time to settle.
My parents never did, ever.
My sister still has got sometimes some problems, and she knows me for many years that I'm transgender. So my parents passed away, so. But I mean, that is one thing. Another thing that I would like to put into this table, or let's say to this thing, is right now we are living in the times which are very, very sometimes dealt with quite a lot of lies. So unfortunately, the hormones or the treatment for the transgender youth has become a political issue. And some of the politicians are not very well informed what's going on. So for the parents, please get professional help before you take any decision. Mm-hmm. Mainly if the kids are minor. If they are, 12, 13, 14, get some really good help. And ask the people good help, because unfortunately what is written sometimes in the newspapers is just a disaster. Nothing to do with reality, you know. Nobody's going to give a 9-year or 10-year-old transgender girl estrogen. Nobody's going. No doctor is going to do that. They will not even give any hormones or any blockers for a 10-year-old. It will come much later.
13 probably, 12, 13, 14.
13, 14, yes, but not.
They might do the blockers, but I don't know if they'll do the estrogen.
Yeah, the blockers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the estrogen will come much, much, much later. So,
you want to explain what the blockers are, Ella, just for anybody that might not understand what that means?
So there are two components when you are doing an HRT, meaning hormone replacement therapy. One component is the blockers. The blockers make sure that if you are a male, the testosterone, or if you're a female, they block your puberty. They block that part which is, generating your basic hormones. So, and then the enhancing hormone is what you want to become. Okay, so you always take both as in the HRT of a transgender person. I took, for example, a blocker for my testosterone so that I would not develop testosterone, and I took estrogen to enhance my femininity. It was still doing that. Well, I don't take any blockers anymore because I don't need that anymore. But
I was going to say also, not meaning to interrupt, we talk about in these videos about being transgender, but in the real world, we try to just go under the radar. We don't have a flag to everybody to say, we're transgender, because we do have people that write in and ask that question. No, we all try to be as stealth as we can.
Are you sure about that? Speak for yourself. No, I'm playing.
No, that's absolutely true, Bonnie, because we've had some comments. That's why she's telling that we have some comments.
I'm just messing with Bonbon.
I think that is, it depends. Cause I'll come out in certain situations for somebody that I know is trans or safe, or it's an educational opportunity to help somebody become an ally, or a parent that's struggling, I'll do that. But if I'm in a bad area, if I'm in a place that I can, get assaulted or something, where I don't feel comfortable, or I'm around people that I don't feel, I try to blend in, I also don't want to be treated, or people around me just so they could pepper me questions about, oh, you're trans. Now I can, sometimes I feel like, okay, I'll do it, but sometimes I don't. So it depends, depends on what's going on. But yeah, the stealth thing is so for me. It depends what's going on.
Here, Christian, if I see, it's very funny. In my professional life, of course, I don't go around telling I'm trans. But, the other day I had another person, which is the head of another company, which is transgender. And she did exactly the same thing. That means she goes a little bit stealth. She doesn't have to say that. As a matter of fact, every time we've got Zoom meetings, she kind of doesn't come in because, I don't know, she's probably not comfortable enough with or at least not with me. But we'd never actually connected that we are transgender, but we know each other that we are transgender. So it's kind of funny. It's a kind of funny relationship.
Anybody else got anything on this subject they want?
Yeah, I would like to say to any parent that may be listening here, or a trans kid could give advice to their parent. Back when we had in-person group sessions, it was not uncommon to have parents attend the transgender support group meeting to learn and learn about the trans community and trans people. And on several occasions, I would say to these parents at the end of the meeting, off to the side, that this is for a parent, that for the parents or parent of a trans person to try to educate themselves to the extent where they're going to actively participate, research, go drive, make the commitment to go to in person or Zoom trans support group meeting and meet some other trans folks and say, hey, you know, we really are really normal people. We're cool. We're functioning humans just like everyone else. But for a parent or parents to go to an in-person trans meeting, to me, that is an optimum display of love.
Absolutely. And I think that some LGBT groups, centers, they have especially only for parents and especially for family meetings. And I have to say as well that sometimes I tell our people from Transgurus, there is an international parents website of transgender people you can go to, and they can give you some help as well. So, and you know, these days we connect in Zoom, so it's kind of a good help for everybody. Not only for parents but for families. It is very, very important. I've even seen a couple which was the parents of a trans man, and they started their own system for their own meetings for the transgender community. And that is and they're here. But here in the United States, we are spoiled because we've got quite a lot of people which help us, the transgender community. Unfortunately, many of the countries where that we get our viewers, it's a little bit more difficult. But try to get international help.
Yeah.
And parents, go ahead, Raj.
No, I was just going to say, don't isolate. That's the worst thing. You don't want to isolate because, you know, it's so empowering to know that there's other people in the world like yourself or that's going through similar things like yourself. When I used to go to the meetings, with COVID, all of that kind of stopped. But, you know, one of the things that was so nice is to get together with other trans people. And a lot of times, you know, they tell a story and I'm just like, oh my God, I went through that. Or, oh my God, I felt like that. And one of the things that can often happen to trans people and their family is that you feel like you're the only one because you might go to the post office and you're the only trans person in the post office, or you might go to the market and you're the only one there. Or if there's a trans person there and they're stealth, maybe you don't know. But what I'm saying is connect, link in, plug in, because it is helpful. It is helpful.
Stay in the here and now. Don't go 5 years out. What's my child? Be in the here and now. Nurture your child in the here and now, because you don't know what your child's needs are going to be, what your child is going to want, what your child's desires are. I mean, there's a whole broad spectrum that is so broad that to worry about it now, it can go a million different ways. So it's a waste of time. Stay in the here and now. Take care of your child, guide your child, and try to give them what they need the best way you can. Go about it the best way you can. There's people you can reach out and ask questions to. That's what we do here on Transgurus. People write us in questions and we do these programs. But anyway, my point is, as your child starts developing, develop with them, not against them. Be part of their world, not just think of your world without that child. Yes, you might lose a son, gain a daughter. Yes, you might lose a daughter and gain a son. Yes, there's a million things in between there that can happen. That doesn't mean you have to go to one spectrum to the other. There's a whole big gray area in between. And to worry about that gray area, I guess I should worry, did I win the lottery? I didn't buy any tickets, but did I win? I'm just trying to say, what am I going to do with all that money when I get it? That's my point. Until I get it, I don't need to worry about it. And I need to go buy a ticket in order to do it. So.
And, I was talking to a family member last week, a cousin of mine, and she said, you know what, Raji, you're still the same person. You had the same personality that you had now when you were young, like when I was a kid. I mean, in other words, the essence, the spirit is still the same. You know, because, and so you'll see, even though the physical changes might happen, as parents, you will see that your child is still there. It's still
Yeah,
there.
but oh, go ahead, Raji.
No. I was just saying that they're still there and that they're flourishing and being more optimal in their self. Go ahead, Christian.
That's basically what that's it. I just couldn't wait to I just couldn't like that because yeah, they're going to be the same, but now you're going to be able to connect with them on such a deeper level. It's going to actually be like, now your kid's not going to have all this, stunted puberty feeling, being awkward and like, I don't know, they feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you navigate through life feeling like you're on eggshells, that, you're in your own like prison by not realizing who you are and embracing that, or, actually not even realizing it. It's more about denying who you are out of fear of other people in your life that you love and cherish and admire. And honestly can't live without, when those people are unwilling to help, and maybe, go into that vulnerable place with that kid now, that trust that's been built over years of time, the courage that they mustered up to tell that person, now it's kind of, it's that there's going to be a wedge driven between that relationship. And
it doesn't have to be, though.
It doesn't have to be. It does not have to be. But I've seen situations, and I'm not going to totally say that this is the same thing, but even with kids nowadays that don't have parents, that aren't even trans, the kids that aren't even trans, you see a lot of boys nowadays that don't have the direction or the mentorship or the basic support system, and look where they go, into gangs, because there's a need to have support. There's a need to have that, that loving and supportive, family system. And if they don't get it from home, they're going to get it because it's a need. We are very creative, innovative people. We are going to find a way to meet our needs in some way, shape, or form. But the way that it manifests might not be the healthiest way. And then that kid goes to prison, they have a record, they get in with the wrong crowd. That's what almost happened to me. Not saying I almost got into a gang, but there were situations in my life that my parents drove me towards, and they were the situation was they were willing to embrace me as trans, but there was a lot of problems associated with that connection. That if only I had my mom and dad in the very beginning, that they could have been supportive and maybe try to wrap their mind around this and build with me, I would have never had to go through that. So I probably would have been even farther along, but it's positive in everything. So I end that story with it built me into the man I am today. So you could see it both ways. But I would much prefer to see people going forward have a supportive network of family and not have to relearn the lessons that could have potentially ruined my life if I didn't figure it out.
That's a very good point. I would just like, I think, more or less to close this. I think the dream of everybody is that everybody gets acceptance. And, that you don't always have to ask yourself, everybody is happy. And I have an example of some of my grandchild. My daughter-in-law told me one day, so you're gonna have a grandson. So he's going to be born as a boy. But we gave him a name which is neutral, just in case that he's transgender, he doesn't have to change the name.
And that's like the ultimate expression of love, really.
Absolutely. You cannot go any further than that. And I think this is so beautiful. So our new generations, I think that they will have, acceptance which is higher, I hope, and that, we survive like we've been surviving for the past 5,000 years, but a little bit better.
5 more thousand, yeah.
Anything to add, anybody?
Huh?
Any closing thoughts? Anything that
I was going to say just that we could do hours and hours and hours going through this, but like anything that you do, your foundation is the most important, and then you grow from there. And what we're trying to say is acceptance of your child, giving your child love, not understanding and not getting personally involved, not allowing all your emotions to control, but your kid's child. And if you can get that one, then you're ready to go to the next one. And we'll do a video soon where we'll take it to after your kid is starting transition. How do you, I mean, we'll break it down more, but there's only so much that you can share in a short period of time because it's such a gigantic subject. It's so broad. I mean, it really is. And it can turn out so many different ways that you need a crystal ball in order to see to go. But if you give love and understanding, all the pieces will work out. That's all I got to say.